Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike, the intern, Ned Reynolds, in the studio Tuesday morning. So yesterday, as Ned mentioned, it's not very often that the NFL does doubleheaders, but because of TV purposes, we got the Houston Texans and the Bucs, and then we had an AFC West showdown. Let's start with that first game. I thought it was a great defensive matchup for sure.
It was a terrific game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a very good football team. They got by this one with a touchdown with 3 seconds remaining in the game. Beat the Houston Texans, who aren't bad. They're not great, but they aren't a bad team either. And playing at home, 20-19 was the final. The Buccaneers won that one. Other game was... Well, the Los Angeles Chargers, they didn't charge, but their defense was suffocating. They held the Las Vegas Raiders out of the end zone for the entire game. Las Vegas had 3 field goals, 9 points, obviously, and the Chargers won it by a score of 20-9. That still doesn't... that's not to indicate that Los Angeles can't score. They can. Josh Herbert has a very good arm. He's a good quarterback. Has a lot of moxie about him, but the final, 20-9, says it all. The Raiders... While they're a good team, their kid from Boise State, who they put in, this is Shanti, their running back, only had about, maybe 50 yards on the ground. Hey, when you can key your defenses against a guy like that, you're going to usually win. Still, Los Angeles Chargers and Tampa Bay Bucs come away with the wins.
And there weren't any fisticuffs between those two coaches of the AFC West team. So there's a lot of media blow up about that.
Don't listen to the media. Hell, they don't know what's going on. Harbaugh and Pete Carroll, they've been around the game a long time, and they know what's going on. They both have sordid careers in college, but be that as it may, they're not in college anymore.
Well, if anyone doesn't know, do you know, was there a specific reason why they didn't like each other? Or is just the coaching proximity? They faced each other a lot in college.
I don't think it's a matter of that. Well, Michigan and Southern Cal would have played often in the Rose Bowl. I would suspect, I don't have the records in front of me, but that's back in the old days when they were different conferences. Now they're both, or were both, in the Big Ten. But I think it's just differences in the way they coach. Pete Carroll, really good coach at Southern Cal, but also doing things a little on the shady side with Reggie Bush and company. And in Harbaugh, of course, he had his ups and downs with the Michigan Wolverines that got him to a point where he'll probably never coach in college again. So the difference in philosophies really has a lot to do with it.
You know, it's funny, though, the fact that you mentioned both of those guys were involved in nefarious dealings in college football, and that's probably why they hate each other, is because, you know, they can recognize each other's games. The kid from Sweden, it breaks my heart every time I see him break another record, because had we been a little bit smarter, we could have probably had this guy in red, white, and blue.
Well, it's his option. He is born in this country and went to LSU. His dad's an All-American at LSU in the pole vault. But this kid, I think he's probably a free thinker. His name is Armand Duplantis, and he is a really, really good athlete. He's only 25 years old, kind of vaults under the radar, so to speak. He is a 14-time world champion. It's the current world record holder. The reason we bring it up is he established another world record in Tokyo before a cool 53,000 fans on Sunday. Vaulted 20 feet, 7.5 inches. They do things in meters in international track and field competition, but that's what it turns out to be, 20 feet, 7.5 inches. That's a new world record. He's 25, and vaulters, as a rule, usually reach their peak around 30 or 31 years old. So if that's the case with Duplantis, then in fact he still has a ways to go and could be the first one ever to vault 21 feet, which would be unbelievable. But still, he is an American, but he's vaulting for Sweden in honor of his mother, who is Swedish, and he has cousins and relatives who live in Sweden, and he's bilingual. He's over there quite a bit. So he's decided he's going to vault for them. But maybe when it comes down to, well, no, it won't come down to the Olympics, because he will vault for Sweden. There's no question about that. He's still a world champion.
The way I understood it was the big reason that he went to Sweden was because the U.S. weren't going to let his parents coach him.
That's exactly what it was. He wanted his dad there as coach because, after all, well, no, not really, because the dad is not a coach. He was a vaulting athlete, and there's a difference between being an athletic. Well, as anybody knows that. How often are great players not very good coaches? Well, the USA, I don't know what their thinking was, but they didn't want dad in there, and that is one of the reasons he did choose Sweden. However, it is what it is, and the guy's a pretty good athlete.
Oh, he's an incredible athlete, and that's why I started off. I wish he was under red, white, and blue. Had someone just said, you know what, if the kid wants his dad to coach him, let him. We'd have a world record guy pole vaulting every Olympics for us, so good on you guys. All right, so after the game on Sunday at Arrowhead, I felt, again, like I said yesterday, the defense stepped up big time, but I think Mahomes is going to lead a lot more help on the offensive side of the ball.
There's any question. He needs his receivers in there, Xavier Worthy, and he won't have Rashee Rice for another 4 games. Worthy, who knows? He may or may not suit up against the Giants. If I were on that coaching staff as an outside observer, I would not have him in there because the Chiefs are probably going to win the game anyway. They're 6-point favorites going in with an over-under around 43.5, 44, somewhere in that vicinity. New York can play some pretty good defense. They showed some against the Dallas Cowboys. They can, if Kansas City is fragmented the way we think they are, New York could have a pretty good defensive night, but I don't think they win. Nonetheless, you do have those players back there. Philadelphia themselves face a really big challenge on Sunday. They were really, in a way, fortunate to get into the Super Bowl last year because they beat the Los Angeles Rams in rainy, snowy conditions in Philadelphia and beat them just barely down the stretch. That's who they play on Sunday, and the Rams happen to be undefeated. So that should be another terrific football game. Incidentally, the Chiefs game with the Giants is Sunday night.
St. Louis Cardinals back at home yesterday to face off with the Reds, and man, the Reds were on fire.
They were indeed. The Cardinals actually had a lead in this game, and Cincinnati had the bats going, and 11-6 is the final. Cincinnati gets the win. The Reds are a pretty good baseball team. They're just not quite there yet. Somehow, some way, they seem to get right in contention for much of the season, and they were in contention for a wild card berth, and then things seem to fall apart. Their pitching really isn't at the top level that it should be. Nonetheless, their hitting is, and they certainly made the Cardinals pay last night, 11-6. Cardinals have about 11 games remaining in the season, and the season can't end quickly enough, and it certainly can for the fans. They only had 18,000 last night for that game. That's, boy. The Cardinals are hitting low water marks this year in attendance. Now, the Kansas City Royals did not play. They are hosting the Seattle Mariners tonight. The Royals have the slimmest of slim chances to get a wild card, but it's so slim that it's hardly even mentionable, and you have to have a bunch of teams lose in front of them, and that's not going to happen. So the Royals and Mariners, a chance for a little revenge on the part of the Kansas City Ball Club against the Seattle team that swept them. And here is Springfield and Tulsa playing tonight. Springfield Cardinals and the Tulsa Drillers. They play down in Tulsa. That is the first game of the Texas League semifinals, which are best of 3. First game is in Tulsa. The next 2, if necessary, second one will be on Thursday night. And then, if necessary, a game on Friday night. Then the 2 winners on to the championship coming up next week.
Can't wait for those guys. Go Springfield Cardinals. All right. So, obviously, the Missouri State football Bears have shown some flashes of pretty consistency, which is good. I mean, obviously, they didn't win against SMU, but for a while they were in the fight. What's next for those guys?
They are playing a non-conference game on Saturday night, and it's against Tennessee Martin. This is an FCS team that puts them from a scholarship level a notch below where the Bears are right now, but the Bears are still building. This is a team the Bears have beaten them last year when both were FCS teams. But Tennessee Martin comes here to fulfill their contract. They're an Ohio Valley Conference team. They've had troubles. Southern Illinois smoked them last Saturday. So this is a good chance for the Bears to get that offense going and have Mr. Clark unload some really big touchdown passes, which I think he can. This is a pretty good Bears team. You don't play Southern Methodist 28-10 and not be a pretty good football team. So I look for the Bears to have a big night. Saturday night at 6 o'clock, that's when they'll kick it off at the Plaster Sports Complex, and hope everybody's out there to watch them. Pretty good Bears team.
Let's go Bears, Ned. You have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.